Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Karen Friedman, Agnifilo. Good morning, Legal AFers and all the Midas Mighty. It is day 3 of the Trump criminal trial in Manhattan for his falsification of business records to interfere with the 2016 election. We are still in the voir dire process, the jury selection process. As of now, there have been 7 jurors selected, and in New York, the 4-person is the first juror selected, as Karen Friedman Agnifilo educated us all on, including myself. I did not know that before having these great discussions. So we have 7 jurors right now who have already been selected. We're going to have the next panel of jurors show up, and the parties will still be able to exercise their for cause and then peremptory challenges. And Karen, if you could break down all of that process as well as what we can expect today. The other kind of breaking news development, if you will, is that, Donald Trump spent all of Wednesday, or a lot of Wednesday, whining at first and complaining about the jury selection process. One of the ironies here is that, remember, during the New York Attorney General's civil fraud trial, Donald Trump had repeatedly said, if I just had a jury, I would win. And it's so unfair. I want a jury. I want a jury. It's unfair that you have Justice Engoron making this decision. Well, now you have a jury, and Donald Trump's going through the same exact process that every single criminal defendant goes through with the voir dire jury selection. Donald Trump is whining and saying that I thought I had an unlimited number of strikes for peremptory challenge. And while he has an unlimited number of strikes for the for cause challenges, if jurors can't be fair or impartial, under New York law, you have 10 peremptory strikes or challenges to prospective jurors. That's quite literally in the New York law. And he's whining about the process and saying, I thought it was this. Nobody's telling me that. Well, it's what the law is. He started off with that, but then as the day progressed, and there's the New York law right there, it just clearly says 10 for regular jurors in all other cases, and this fits into that category. But then his threats and intimidation started accelerating, got to the level of threats and intimidation, where he says they are catching undercover liberal activists lying to the judge in order to get on the Trump jury. Let me just repeat it one more time. They are catching undercover liberal activists lying to the judge in order to get on the Trump jury. And he quotes Fox host Jesse Waters saying that. That's how Donald Trump likes to claim plausible deniability. I was just quoting what the Fox host was saying. I wasn't saying. Well, you're posting that on your social media platform. You're talking about they are catching. And that's the kind of conduct that, let's pull up the gag order for just a moment right here on that screen. And you'll see right there, subsection C of the gag order states that Trump is prohibited from making or directing others to make public statements about any prospective jurors or any juror in the criminal proceeding. So, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, I love to be your hype person here. I do those longer intros so we could give everybody the summary, but also build that audience for the superstar of these legal breakdowns, KFA. And so if you can, Karen, where are we right now? Do you think that that's a violation of the gag order? And then what can we expect today?
Yeah, so where we are right now is we're moving at a pretty fast clip, believe it or not, through jury selection. Day 1 was a little slow, which it always is, because you have to do some cleanup and housekeeping and some pretrial motions in limine that are supposed to happen right before trial. And we didn't even get to start bringing the jury until in the afternoon. But then we saw the pace pick up pretty quickly the second day, and 7 jurors were picked. And so I thought I was going to win my bet with Popok saying we're going to have a jury by the end of the week. He said we're going to go into next week. I felt pretty confident about that. But I'm starting to think perhaps I am wrong, because although we today are supposed to just go right into jury selection, and we might still go right into jury selection, and then I could still potentially win my lunch bet that we'll have a jury by Friday. I think that there's a chance, and certainly at least I think discussions are being had right now at the Manhattan DA's office. I don't know this from any inside information. I haven't talked to anybody, but just from experience, what I think is happening behind the scenes is they're trying to decide whether to ask the judge to reconsider his order to show cause hearing that's scheduled for next week, to have it tomorrow or Friday, because I think Trump has once again not only violated the gag order, but kind of hit that third rail of threatening potential jurors and the jury by that post that you just mentioned, Ben. And the thing is, and I think that the prosecutors made a tactical decision that I don't necessarily agree with, and I would even say is potentially a tactical, slightly tactical mistake, which is that I count that Donald Trump has violated the gag order at least 5 times, not, or actually 6 times, not 3 times. And so the gag order prevents him from making comments about witnesses that could materially impact their testimony in the trial, or anybody, including jurors, court staff, lawyers, etc. He's not allowed to do that. But he can go after the elected DA Alvin Bragg and the judge in the case Juan Merchan. Those were the 2 exceptions. So what does Donald Trump do? He acts like, frankly, a toddler who you said, go to your room. You do not step out of that room. And the toddler walks right up to the door and steps, puts his toe kind of over the line a little bit, and looks at you like, what are you going to do about it? And that's what I think Donald Trump has been doing. So what he did at first was there were these, the Fox and others who were talking about the judge's daughter. And that's what the gag order was expanded to include, to make it clear you couldn't talk about family members. And so they expanded it to the daughter. And so rather than him making the comment, he reposted what others were saying about the daughter. Personally, I think that's a violation. That's considered making a statement because you're adopting someone else's statement. So and posting it on your social media, that's making a statement. So I do think that that would count. And then he himself made statements, 3 different statements about witnesses in the case, Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, and I can't remember the third, but it was 3 different statements. And those 3 statements that he himself made are the ones that the prosecutors put in their order to show cause. They didn't include the first 3 that I just talked about when he reposted statements other people made. And the reason I think that's a tactical error is that sent a message to Donald Trump. Oh, okay. As long as I repost things, it's okay. I just can't, when I do it directly, I can't do it. So I can repost. And so what did he do today? He reposted somebody else's comment that I think threatens jurors, including the current jury, in addition to prospective jurors. Because if I'm a juror on this case and Donald Trump is reposting things, accusing me of being a stealth juror, trying to get on this jury, either people who are on or in the future, I would be terrified of voting to convict, right? He's scary. His people are scary. And I think personally, if I'm the prosecutor, I would say that violates the gag order, both by the letter and the spirit. And it touches the third rail of any trial. It's the jury. And you're not allowed to do that. That's the thing more than anything else. That's sacrosanct. So I think the prosecutors are going to be thinking long and hard about whether to bring that to the court's attention tomorrow and say that whether that's a violation, today, Thursday or Friday, tomorrow, say that this is a violation of the order. And I think that they are absolutely going to think about that long and hard and potentially even bring that to the court's attention. And if they do, I think the court could move that hearing up as to tomorrow, frankly, because I'd be so nervous that he's going to keep doing this and keep going. And so I think that could delay things, and not by much, but we're talking a few hours, a few days maybe, and then therefore I could lose my bet. Anyway, so that's what I think potentially is going to happen today. But if it doesn't, then they're going to go straight into jury selection. They have 5 more jurors to pick. There's 4 peremptory challenges. Those are the no matter what, for no matter whatever reason you want, except you can't do it based on certain constitutional protections like race, et cetera, gender, things that are protect constitutionally protected. You can't base it on those things, but for other reasons, like you don't like the newspapers that they read, or you think that they have a liberal bent, et cetera, based on looking on their their public social media, whatever reason you want. Those are the types that you have. Each side has 4 of those left to pick 5 more jurors, and it's like a big chess game because you kind of want to make the other side use them up, and you don't like this one that much, but you really don't like the one that's 5 away. So you want to at least save 1 perempt for that person in case Donald Trump doesn't use up any of the 4 before that. So, there's a whole like chess equation thing that goes on in your head about when you use them and who you want on your jury. So we could get a full jury pretty soon. And then we get to the alternates. And the alternates, it's interesting because then the whole thing resets because you pick alternates 1 at a time. You don't pick them 6. Like right now you're picking 12, right? And so you try to get to 12 and you do them in multiples, and the peremptories go in multiples, right? With alternates, it's 1 at a time. And so you will pick alternate seat number 1, and each alternate seat gets 2 challenges for each side. And so some people have asked me, a bunch of people have asked me, so does that mean there's 12? And the answer is sort of. There's 12, but you can't use them all up at once. It resets every time you get to a new seat. So, for example, let's say you've got 10 people in the box and you're picking alternate number 1. And let's say I don't like alternate 1. I'm the prosecution and I go first. So I don't like alternate number 1. So I use 1 perempt for that. I don't like the person who's sitting right there. So, okay, then I have 1 left. And then we get to the second person sitting there and I use that one up. Okay, now I am out of perempts for alternate seat number 1. And so number 3 is either going to be the alternate person, or if Trump uses their perempt for that person, right? 1, 2, and then the 5th person becomes the alternate. And then you get to alternate seat number 2, and then it resets. You get prosecution gets 2 and Trump gets 2, but you might not use any, right? So it could be that person if nobody uses their perempt. So it goes like that until you get to 6. So that's what's going to happen. You'll get a jury, I think, by the end of the week. We'll see, and then come opening statements, and that's when the show starts.
And Karen, any trends that you're seeing in the jurors that have been selected already? Obviously, it's an anonymous jury in terms of it being to the public. They're just identified as a juror number. So we're able to glean certain data about these jurors who have been selected, and sometimes a little bit too much data because it seems that you can kind of piece it together and put it through a Google search and find them. But I'm not saying that this is the exact types of things. I'm not divulging too much information, but you'll see, juror A watches, New York Times, reads the New York Times, watches CNN and occasionally Fox, gets their mail gets some news from the Daily Mail, married with kids. I think the 4-person was described as someone originally from Ireland who's here right now. Anything that either concerns you or leads you to believe that there's any issues with the jury? Why do you think Donald Trump is reacting the way he is? Is that just what he does with everything, and he wants to just already start the excuses that this is unfair no matter what the outcome is? So what do you make of all that?
I mean, first of all, the fact that he says, I thought I had unlimited peremptory challenges, that's between him and his lawyer. Their lawyer's job is to explain the process to the client and tell them all of that. That's not anyone's fault but his own lawyer, number 1. Number 2, interestingly, the jury I like so far some of the jurors. I like their answers to the questions. I like they seem smart and thoughtful, and they're saying things like, this isn't a popular, I'm paraphrasing, this isn't whether I like him or not. This is about the evidence in the case. And that's what you want. You want people who can be fair and impartial. And so far, I think they're doing a really good job at getting the people who might have some ulterior motives off the jury. And I think the fact that the lawyers are doing these social media searches, they were able to glean some information that that the juror maybe didn't feel comfortable saying, and the judge then struck those individuals. And I think that shows that the system is working, because I hope that no stealth jurors get on this jury. The one thing you want is a fair trial. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty by a jury of their peers. You don't want anyone with ulterior motives. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't the time for people who either love Trump or hate Trump to get on a jury and do a rule and vote no matter what in the direction that you're in, no matter what the evidence is. That delegitimizes everything. It delegitimizes our criminal justice system, our institutions, and nobody should want that. And so what I see is that it seems to be working so far, that they're able to suss out anybody who might be a fair person in life, but for this particular case, they can't be fair and impartial for various reasons. So that's one trend I'm seeing, and I'm really happy about that, because I do believe in the system, and I do believe that everyone, including Donald Trump, is innocent until proven guilty. And I believe that to my core. I don't just say that and pay it lip service. I really do, and I'm glad that finally this is going out of the court of public opinion and into a courtroom where witnesses have to walk into court, raise their right hand, swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. They get to be cross-examined, and Donald Trump says, "Oh, this is a Joe Biden court, and the judge hates me, and Alvin Bragg hates me," and on and on and on and on. Well, even if those things are true, which they're not, because this is state court, nothing. Alvin Bragg's independently elected. He can't be pardoned because this is truly a state thing. And the judge, no matter what you say, at the end of the day, the jurors that are picked are going to be ones that Donald Trump chose. He has 4 peremptories left. He didn't use them on these 7. So he chose, through his lawyers, these 7 people who are there as much as the prosecutor did. They're the ones who are going to be deciding his fate and whether he is guilty or innocent. It's nothing to do with the judge. This isn't like Judge Engoron, who sat for the trial, but it was a bench trial. So he was both the finder of the fact and the judge. And so that's why I think Trump had an opportunity to criticize that there. This is a jury that he's picking. And so there is absolutely no reason to be able to spin it the way he's trying to spin it, or the right-wing media is trying to spin it. So I'm happy about that too. One other thing that I thought was interesting that I noticed is that there are several people from Harlem on the jury, because don't forget, this is everybody here, everybody who can sit, who's eligible to sit on this jury, has to live in the island of Manhattan. And so there are several people who are from Harlem, and Harlem is a wonderful, beautiful part of Manhattan. It's in Upper Manhattan, and it's a very diverse community that has been, I think, overly policed over the years. It is people have been. It was very much the whole during the stop and frisk era. I think they were overly impacted by over policing, and a lot of people, mass incarceration hit areas like Harlem in a really big way, just based on the diversity and of people who live there. And so there's a history of kind of, I don't want to say, I want to, how do I put this? I don't want to say anti-law enforcement, although there's some, but there's a history of some feelings of negativity towards that era, and towards too much criminal justice involvement for people up there. And I actually agree with that. And interestingly that Donald Trump is choosing to put people from that community up there. And then, because, the one thing you have to give him is he's somebody, whether it's him or somebody on his team, they're pretty strategic. What did he do in the middle of jury selection? He drove up to Harlem. He went into the bodega where a very much beloved bodega worker who stabbed someone who was coming in to rob him in self-defense. And the bodega worker, again, who's a very important member of the community, people love him, and he was arrested and prosecuted. And then thankfully the case was dismissed ultimately, because he should never have been arrested and prosecuted. But that was kind of an example of the over aggressive law enforcement that I think that community feels that they have faced. And what did Donald Trump do? He went right to that same bodega and he made himself out to be like, I'm one of you. I'm persecuted by this over aggressive law enforcement. And he is, although he's a billionaire with a house in Mar-a-Lago and drivers and airplanes and lives a life that we can only dream of, plays golf and whatever, he somehow has a way of making himself part of that community, the persecuted, the underrepresented. And frankly, he got a pretty good reception. They were, chanting 4 more years. And
Well, Karen, on that, we actually did an investigative report at MeidasTouch.com, and it turns out that most of those people actually worked for the New York Young Republican Club, who he put in 30 to 40 people to actually stage that. And not to say that there wasn't a good reception, but the same way he's very good at staging these propaganda events. He did one in Atlanta where he went to Buckhead and raised money from billionaires, then went to a Chick-fil-A, and he had a Republican consultant who actually did work with Charlie Kirk and others give him a hug. It was an African-American woman. And we also we showed that she was actually a Republican consultant, worked for Charlie Kirk from the right-wing Turning Points USA. And that, one of the things that Turning Points USA is advocating for, that he's advocated for, is not having Black pilots or female pilots. And so she works for that group. But anyway, not to say that there weren't people organically chanting, but
yeah. I hear you. And I hear you. And I think that's super important to talk about how staged it was. But it has an impact in the community because it was reported on very much so. And I think there are going to be people who are jurors who will have potentially connected with that. I don't know, future jurors. It just worried me a little bit. It worried me that what he's doing. And I hear you. And I don't mean to be misrepresenting what it was. Obviously, way more than I do, but it definitely concerned me because, I don't know, it's scary to be a juror. It is really, it's a weighty, heady job to sit in judgment of someone. And it is scary. And if you're worried that, somebody is a supporter or somebody, I don't know, it just worried me. I just hope that people, it's hard to convict and it's hard to acquit. It's hard they're going to go around and they're going to poll each person. And those types of stunts, clearly it was a stunt, can have an impact. And that just worried me a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And to your point, he's going there as part of a broader plan to then select jurors from that area, and then to say, "Hey, I'm in your community. I'm trying to help you out." This is the fraud that he's done his entire life. That's he's very he is very good at doing that. I had a DeSantis supporter who I interviewed who was a former Trump supporter who left. And what this former MAGA individual who I interviewed was basically saying is, he goes, look, Donald Trump is what he is the best in history of doing, if you want to call it the best, is conning people and tricking people and playing to people's vulnerabilities and doing that to enrich himself and then screw over those people. He taps into that fear. He taps into the ways to divide us. And and he's doing it there. I think what you and I, no matter what we want here is we want a fair and impartial jury. We want a fair and impartial process. It's fairly unprecedented to have him kind of both threatening jurors, working the jurors by going to a bodega, having his own crowd there, kind of feign support and make it look like it's something real, but it's AstroTurf, attack the judge, attack the district attorney. And, when I went to law school, when I teach a law school course, I think what attracted you to the law, as well is in the truest sense of the word, law and order, right? And what that means. And that's really being tested in this trial, in all of these other cases, is really, are we a nation of laws? Is the law applied to everybody? Are we no different than North Korea? Are we no different than Vladimir Putin's Russia? Are we no different than Gaddafi's Libya? Are we no different than Saddam Hussein's Iraq? Is that who we are? And it's right here, right here, right now. And these stress tests attacking our institutions are happening, each and every day. Karen, I'll give you the final word. And I want to remind everybody that as soon as today's court proceedings end, check back immediately on our feed. We will be ready to go. We will be ready to go here. What we did last time, and what we'll probably do again, is right around, I would say, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, because we have political beatdown today as well. Check in. We'll do that. We'll recap as much as we have today, and then I'll go in and start political beatdown, shortly thereafter. Karen, final words.
This is an unprecedented case for so many reasons, and in so many ways, it's also so ordinary. But we're going to break it all down for everybody. And the reason I really appreciate that people are listening and coming to us is the whole purpose of what we're doing is to just tell the truth and get the truth out there, because Donald Trump and others report on things that aren't fact. I overheard a conversation on a telephone with somebody who on the other side of the phone was saying, can you believe Judge Merchan isn't even going to let him go to his son's graduation? And I was so taken aback, because this is actually a really smart person that I know. And I thought, it's just crazy to me that that's not what Judge Merchan said, right? But Judge Merchan said when Trump asked, can I go to my son's graduation May 17th, said, okay, I don't know yet. I'm not sure. That's in a while. We'll deal with that when it comes. I'm not ruling on that now, right? And what does Donald Trump do? He walks out and he says, I'm not going to be allowed to go to my son's graduation. Can you believe this judge? Blah, blah, blah. And then people just repeat that, because he says it. They just think it's true, and they just repeat it. They believe what he says. And, I've said this before. I have no problem with people who have different viewpoints, but have it be based on fact. If you disagree and whether you're conservative or liberal and you're anti this or pro that, fine. Let's have a real discussion, but have it be based on the truth. And that's the thing that drives me crazy about these speeches that are given outside of court, this court of public opinion. And that's why we're doing this every single day is just to get the actual facts out there, so people can judge for themselves what their opinions are, and so people can know what's happening in the courtroom, because it's not videotaped. It's not like Fulton County, Georgia, where people can tune in and watch it for themselves. So I'm very appreciative to have this platform and to be doing this with you, Ben.
The feeling is mutual, and I'm so glad to be doing it with this whole incredible pro-democracy community here at the Midas Touch Network, you watching at home. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel right here. You may think that you're subscribed because you watch Midas Touch every morning and every afternoon and every evening, but you may not have hit the subscribe button. So make sure you hit subscribe. Also, make sure wherever you get audio podcasts, you subscribe to the Legal AF audio podcast as well. It'll take you just 60 seconds at most to do that. So search Legal AF, hit subscribe on the audio, and you'll be subscribed to the Legal AF audio podcast. And we appreciate your support. We appreciate your company. And we'll see you soon. So let's get to the trial, and we'll see you soon. Ben Meiselas, Karen Friedman, Agnifilo saying thank you, and let law and order prevail. Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.midastouch.com. That's store